Blessings, fam. This is Noemi with BG2G, and I want to talk about racism and humanity. I'd like to just kind of challenge some people's thought process, those of you who believe that there's so much racism going on in America. And I want to ask you, like, at what point is it racism, and at what point is someone allowed just not to like you? Right? So when we talk about racism, the definition of racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism. Antagonism is when you're just like, you're egging someone to fail. You're just like, oh, I just want to see that person or these people hurt themselves, kind of thing. Directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Okay, so there's like two elements here. You have to have a prejudice, a discrimination, and antagonize someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own is superior. Okay, and then it says here, the belief that all members of each race possess characteristics or abilities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race or races. That's the theories of racism. This is based on my lived experience. So I have been strangled and almost thrown off of a balcony by a white man. I've been punched in the face by a black man, and I've been dragged by my hair across a room by a Puerto Rican, right? And so who's the devil in that situation? You know, does race have to play? Is it a race thing? When you look at like America is infamous, right, for the blacks against white, okay, white against black, whatever. What about Nazis and Jews? What about England versus Scott? That's white and white. What about the slavery that happens in Africa, the government and how they enslave their own? What about dictatorships? Chinese versus Japanese, those wars. What about the oppression on women in every single culture? You want to talk about like race and prejudice, right? How much of it is just human ignorance, and human hate? And just what I personally see in America is that regardless of the predominantly white people that are in politics or whatever are corrupt and oppressing, and regardless of the fact of like COs and correctional officers are, abusive or whatever, what I see is that most of them are corrupt just because they can. They're corrupt not because they see their race as superior to the others, but because they're in power and it gets to their head. What I see is that it's people who commit these corrupt or are funding corrupt agendas for people to destroy each other, and the discrimination or whatever on how attention is given now to the opioid war that wasn't given to the crack epidemic, because of now it's affecting white people. This isn't a matter of white people like think themselves superior, more that white people didn't care because it didn't affect them. And that's very different than a racism issue. This is just a humanity issue. This is the reality that most humans are self-centered, and until it's affecting me, I really don't care what your problem is because I'm too busy with my own problem. A lot of people who do corruption, whether white, black, Puerto Rican, in power, will do it to their own. They will do it to their own because it's more of a power trip and an abuse of power, which is common in all races. And so I ask people again, like, at what point is a person or is a problem racism, and at what point is the problem innate human evil, human self-centeredness, human ambition, human disregard to life? I guess what I also want to say is, how much is this a race war versus a human problem?